to college can be one of the most exciting times in a young woman's life, right? But it can also be a little bit scary, not only for her, but her parents as well. And this morning we have an expert here, a parenting expert, as well as a self-esteem expert, Debra Beck. And she's going to be talking about some tips on managing life during this transition, and what are some of the toughest issues parents and students go through. So let's start. First of all, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
And so at what point do parents really need to start talking to their kids, because going to college is a huge transition?
It really is. And I think that, there's a time when you have to tell your kids what to do, when to do it, and how to do it.
Right.
But then there's a time when that doesn't work anymore, and you have to start allowing them to manage their own life. The problem is they don't know how to manage it. So parents can't just all of a sudden just back off and say, well, you manage your life. They have to teach them how to manage. And the way that they do this is allowing their teens to make mistakes, and then to ask them questions like, so how did that work out for you? And just ask them questions.
Yeah, so you say let her manage her own life, which can be very hard for some parents, as you understand.
Very hard.
Because you have two teens of your own.
Yes,
you did. They're grown up now.
Yes.
And also, when you say let them make a few mistakes, how do you do that? I'm not a parent, but how do you allow them to make a mistake and not just completely, go crazy over it? Because obviously high school, college, you talk about in your book here, which we'll get to in a second, drugs, sex, even suicide on the rise.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that those are all of the things you have to start talking to your kids about early, like when they're turning 12, and you have to allow them to keep making mistakes, and then you talk about it. That's how you teach them, because if you don't teach them and then they're in college, they're not under your wing, and they will make mistakes. I've seen kids that where parents have kind of controlled them, and then like, okay, go to college, and they're the ones that really break out, do the massive drinking, and they make really mistakes that
could have been avoided.
And they're bad mistakes.
And you say use empowering statements, like what?
Like, I really believe that you can make good decisions, and I believe that you can manage your own life.
And what does that do to a daughter when you talk to her like that?
Well, it lets her know that she is capable, instead of saying, no, I don't want you to do that. I need to do that. I need to tell you what to do. It makes her believe that she's not capable.
Yes.
So it doesn't really empower her.
You also say stick to rules, allowing her the responsibility as well as consequences.
Right. Perfect example is I have a teen and parent that I work with, and she has a pretty bad rash, and her mother wants her to put the rash cream on, but no matter how many times her mother says, put the rash cream on, she won't. So she finally just said, okay, it's up to you. If you want scars, it's up to you. And if you have to go to the doctors because it gets so bad, you have to pay for it. So those are the consequences.
Yeah, and teens don't like spending their own money on things.
No.
You wrote this book. It's called My Feet Aren't Ugly.
Yes.
I love the book because you talk about this is a good read for teens too. How to deal with
tweens, for sure.
Yeah, how to deal with college, and you talk about in a day and age where we're living with the internet, cyberbullying and everything, which is important. You get into college, you don't want to start meeting guys online. I mean, it gets very dangerous. But I want to ask you, where did you come up with the title, My Feet Aren't Ugly?
Well, when I was living in Phoenix and it was a very hot day, I was talking to a guy I really was crushing on. He was 13, and he kept looking at my feet, and all of a sudden he said I had the ugliest feet he'd ever seen.
What?
Yes.
That is so mean.
That's the title. And I didn't wear open-toed shoes in Phoenix for over a year.
And in Phoenix?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, your feet are not ugly. As a matter of fact.
No,
I love the title. Thank you so much for being here with us. Of course,
my pleasure.
This is an important topic. A lot of kids getting ready for school. And you should be, as a parent, really taking the time to talk to your kids before it gets really bad.
Absolutely. Communication's
great. Yeah, very, very key. All right, Debra, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Well, so far this morning we've talked about raising boys, and now we turn our focus to the challenges of raising girls. So to help guide us with this is Debra Beck. She's written a book. It's called My Feet Aren't Ugly, A Girl's Guide to Loving Herself. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well. When I asked you what inspired you to write this book, you touched my heart. Will you share that with our viewers?
Absolutely. Well, I was a really tormented teenager myself, and I really thought it was exclusive to me until I had daughters of my own. and realized, oh my gosh, this was not exclusive to me at all. It was really a universal problem. And so it was really through my own tormented teenage years that I just started mentoring.
And this is
writing.
It's become a life passion for you. And that's why you're here today, because I would imagine we have some parents who are watching who might be going through a tough time with their daughters.
Oh my gosh,
and this guide is exceptional. You've got 4 key points here that will hopefully open up the doors to better communication and help. So you begin here with saying if we love our daughters unconditionally by supporting them, they can bloom.
Absolutely. That's so critical, because when we try to make them something that they don't want to be or they aren't, you know, it just stops them. When we do things we want to do, we really are big out there in the world. And so we really want to just let them be who they are. If they, you know, if parents will say, oh, I want my daughter to be a cheerleader. And what if they don't? What if they want to play soccer? Let them play soccer and get behind them. Let them do what they are passionate about doing.
Well, and if you think about you know, ourselves as adults, when we're doing what we want to do, we flourish as well.
We do. We do.
All right, let's talk about those negative voices, because society does lie to us. I mean, there's so much pressure in the media and things like this, but we've got to teach our girls to fight that voice.
Absolutely, and we all have a negative voice inside of us, all of us, and I really work with teens to combat that negative voice, to just really treat it like it's outside of us and look at it and say, no, that's a lie. I'm not going to believe that, and I'm not going to live my life through that lie. You know, like saying, oh, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that because your thighs are too big. No, that's a lie. I'm not going to buy into it. So we really have to be strong with that voice.
Yeah, it's
huge. Say no.
And they say what you think about grows. So if you choose positive thoughts, you will feel better.
Yes.
Our final 2 points that you're sharing with us really go hand in hand. You say managing your life can really help to lead to great decision making. Talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, I always tell parents that, you know, kids don't just come into the world learning how to manage their own life. You have to teach them how to manage their life. And what that looks like is, if decisions are on the table, like talking about it, instead of making the decisions for them all the time, you know, because then you have a college kid that goes to school, you know, to college, and they've never made a decision in their life. And so to be able to say, well, what would you do? Ask them questions and say, well, if they do make a mistake, well, how did that work out for you? You know, what would you do differently next time?
That's great. So, you know, and you can really never start too early when it comes to getting them to make choices.
No.
Even when it comes to the jammies they're wearing at night.
Exactly. Give them a choice.
Well, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much. We're going to put all of her information up on our hotline and how you can get your hands on her book.
Thank you.
Thank you.